Thank you very much. Let me hope I know how to, I've not explained how this thing functions. Okay, first, let me have a qualifier before I begin my presentation. I'm not I claim to be an environmentalist. I try to practice what I preach, and mine is a small NGO which has tried to demonstrate at many levels sustainable solutions. This is one of the sustainable solutions that we have actually demonstrated, and it is operating. How do I get this going? You should explain before you give a control. That's reverse. Which is a forward? Which is your forward? The other way around. Make more sense if put a computer here. Which one? Center. Center. Okay. This basically was a project that we could not have undertaken on our own if we had not had money from the Danida. And they provided it as part of a project. And the idea was it was done over a 3-year period, which started in March 2004. And the renovations actually, this project, which was the first phase of the project, was completed by the end of March. So this one goes backward. Now, basically, we had 3 objectives: promote sustainable energy lifestyles, promote the concept of energy audits, and apply green technology practices before the word green technology became so popular in this country. Now, we took a double-story terrace house, which is one of the most common housing stock in the country, and we took an intermediate lot because modifying an end house and an intermediate house requires different things. And this is what the house looked like before. This is what it was before, and this is after. We'll tell you what we did. It was actually, we have used it as both the office of SETDEM as well as where I live. I live upstairs and the office is downstairs because we can't afford a separate office. It's a 32-year double-story intermediate house. It used incandescent and fluorescent lights. It had tinted glass windows, and it already had a solar water heater. And like normal houses in Malaysia, we used to keep our doors and windows open during the day and close them at night. But this practice we had to change. Now, these were the components we had. We had, actually, this slide is wrongly labeled, after actually. We now have a new solar PV set. We have aluminum louvers that protect the sunlight from going into the house. We have a rainwater harvesting tank, and I'll show you a few other changes we made. The most important of which was insulating the roof. We removed the tiles while we occupied the house. We could not afford to rent another house, so we stayed in the house while this renovation was going on. The tiles were removed. These old tiles broke as they were doing, but they're very good. They're clay tiles. They are better insulators than the current tiles that are made of concrete. We put 100 millimeters of rock wool. And this is a cross-section. For those who are technically minded, we made sure that there was an opening at the eaves to allow cool air to rise. The heat would not go through the insulating layer, and the heat would rise and go up at the top roof. And this was an attempt to block out the sunlight because we couldn't afford to spend money. When we started, we actually wanted to do the renovations at the cost that my neighbors are renovating the house, which is about 100,000 ringgit Malaysian. That was our target. So to make it like the way you renovate your house. So we did not want to spend money on having special glass. We thought about whether we should put rattan chicks, but they would rot after some time. So we then compromised and went for aluminum louvers. But we found that the drawback with aluminum louvers is they do get heated up and they radiate some heat. So, well, we had to lead with a compromise. This was the most expensive component, the solar photovoltaic panel. We only decided to put 1 kilowatt-hour peak, but we connected it to the grid. We didn't buy a storage battery. And basically the idea of it was to reduce our electricity bill in addition to the other changes that we made. bell goes on very often. This was using rainwater harvesting. We decided to put a tank on the balcony so we could then use gravity flow to water our garden, which is basically an organic garden. We put a polycarbonate air wall roof because our water tank rests on a cement slab through which a lot of heat was coming in. But we had to then insulate, put aerated concrete on the air wall slabs because a lot of heat was still coming through. And this was what it achieved in terms of temperatures. On the average, 3 degrees cooler than the porch temperature, shaded porch temperature. And these are measurements of the temperatures. The price, this is the price we finally got. About 40,000 for the roof insulation and the mobilization work, 5,100 ringgit for the aluminum louvers, 2,200 ringgit for the water tank. Anyway, the total cost came to 115,000. Bulk of the cost was because the photovoltaic panel cost us 37,000 ringgit. If you're not, but because it is part of the renovation cost, then the part of the PV panel becomes, you don't talk about payback period when you renovate your house. Otherwise, we would have been a lot of problems. So it took us 60 working days, and our energy performance is now 18 kilowatt hours per meter square per year. Energy tips. What we do is close the doors and windows during the daytime to prevent the hot air from coming in. We open them at least up to upper floor at night to allow the cool air to come in. And we try to avoid having any equipment on standby mode because there's a lot of energy being used even in standby mode. So the points to ponder, this is my last slide, is more effective to manage as a renovation task because we don't talk about payback periods. PV and insulation subsidy grant would help if people want to renovate. Homeowners are renovating, at least in my part of the town of Petaling Jaya, almost every few years they're renovating the houses. So renovation is not a real problem. Thermal comfort level, this is a point I want to stress because today it's also cold here, that's why I wear the jacket, I never wear a jacket. Normal thermal comfort level for Malaysians is from 24 degrees to 29 degrees C. Why do we cool every building to 18 degrees C? We have no aircon in our house, I wanted to mention that. Never had, nor do we intend to have. And natural ventilation in urban estates is a myth. A lot of people think we have a lot of natural ventilation. We don't really have, especially in housing estates. And avoid hot air intakes. I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Singh, for an enlightening